Hello everyone from Ali at 11th House Wales, and welcome to a weekly appointment. Today we're going to talk about gratitude, and I thought this is the perfect chance. This is the perfect time of year. Across the pond they are celebrating giving thanks and gratitude, and it is one of those really important things to think about and to incorporate in our lives and to celebrate, because more gratitude means more happiness. Gratitude is one of those essential components of happiness. So I want to give you just a few tips, because it is very much flavor of the month, isn't it? Gratitude. There is a lot of talk about gratitude, but you might be thinking, well, on a practical level, how do I do this? How does it work? So just a few tips. The first one, and we talked about this recently, this is one way of savoring the positive and really not letting it slip away, which is something that we do so naturally. We just shrug it off, we dismiss it, we forget about it, we let it slip away. And we were talking about that in the context of feeling better about ourselves, improving our self-esteem. And this is something that goes for a feeling of gratitude as well. Write thank you notes, for example, which could be, the old-fashioned way on paper, or it could be a text, but making a point of marking that occasion for gratitude. Something has said something good or done something good for you. Send a thank you note. That is one way of capturing that positive, that good thing that has happened to you, and expressing gratitude. Something which goes well with this, which is basically a different, similar facet of expressing gratitude, is giving praise. Give praise, genuine praise, to people who have done or said something nice for you. And this is actually something which is really, really effective. It has been shown to be really effective in positive psychology in order to augment a sense of happiness. And say it as you really mean it. Make sure that you are really showing that you mean it. So eye contact, be specific. Thank you so much for doing this particular thing for me. Eye contact, and make sure that you are really harnessing your body language as well. So hugging, if you feel safe to hug. Obviously these days we need to put that disclaimer in. And smiling, all of these non-verbal signs of how you feel, which really serve to strengthen the experience and reinforce the emotion, both for the person on the receiving end and for yourself as well. It will be more intense. Another tip is to change your perception. Again, it is something that we have talked about before. Things happen in life. Unfortunately, they're not always easy to deal with. We can't change what happens, but we can change the way that we feel about these things happening. So changing your perception. We have talked before about reframing, changing the meaning. Again, we have this power not to change what happened, but to change what it means to us. And I will put links in the description of this video to videos that we have, where we have talked about these things before, if you want to go back and refresh these things in your mind. And please do understand that I know that big things happen, and it is something that you might be thinking, well, that is easier said than done. And I do appreciate that. I had, massive things happening for myself. So I know where you're coming from. But we're not talking about having just a, Pollyanna attitude where everything is good. We're not talking about that. You can just suspend the judgment. You can just turn it into something neutral. I was reading up a while ago about Stoic philosophy, and something I read really helped. So instead of saying this thing happened to me, and it is bad, and it is painful, and it is affecting me, and it has changed my life, just stop at the first part. This thing happened to me. Full stop. And this is something which can be very liberating. We are doing away with the judgment. It is something that we talked about in many of our mindfulness videos and practices together as well. Just observing, just acknowledging your experience, what is happening and what has happened, without necessarily having to put it in a box, without having to put a label on it, without having to categorize it, without having to express a preference or a value judgment about it. Another tip is to make gratitude into an everyday experience by creating a ritual. A ritual could be, for example, having a jar, the jar of gratitude. That is a classic, that is. You just use notes. It could be sticky notes, for example, and you write down every day something that you are grateful for. And it could be one thing, it could be multiple things, and then you fold it up and you put it in the jar. And then periodically, or when your jar is full, you can take them all out and read them to yourself. And again, savor these things. Don't let them slip away. Save the positive in your life. Something else which is even easier to do is three things that I'm grateful for every night before you go to sleep, or every morning even when you wake up. The advice in this is that we very quickly habituate to things. So for this ritual to be effective, it would be best to make it intermittent. So don't do it every day, for example. You could do it, I don't know, the first 3 days of the week to help yourself to get through the week when it is harder, and then getting closer to the weekend, it gets lighter, it gets easier. Or you could do it, for example, every month, 3 weeks on and 1 week off, or alternate weeks. But it is best, in the way of yielding results, for you to keep it intermittent so you don't get too used to it. It doesn't become something that you just take for granted. And of course, you could track over time the effect of applying these things consistently in your life. So if you give yourself a value now on a scale from 0 to 10, of your current level of fulfillment and happiness and satisfaction with life, and put it on the scale, give it a number, write it down somewhere. And then next month, come back to it and reevaluate it. Please don't do it every day. Don't even do it every week, because you will fluctuate in the way that you feel. But if you do it at least every month or every quarter, just make sure that you leave some room in between to give yourself, that time to start making progress and track that progression. That will show you, the real effect it has on your life, which you might not always be aware of, because of course, you live with yourself day in, day out, and it might be difficult to appreciate the direction that you are going if you don't keep an eye on it and really look back and see how far you have come. And now one final tip, because we are getting closer to Christmas. Love it or hate it, we are getting closer to Christmas. It has been proven that a better way of harnessing our happiness is to spend money on activities, or spend time on activities even, instead of material goods. So if you want to really give something that will extend the experience of happiness for the receiver, then it is a good idea to invest that budget into activities instead of just something that they can unwrap on the day. There is a lot more to it. There is the looking forward to it. There is the experience itself, and there is the looking back onto the experience. So it really is more effective, you know, in the way of happiness. It really gives more happiness overall to have an experience instead of a material item. So I really hope that you found this beneficial and helpful, and I will see you here again next week, same day, same time. Until then, please take care and have a lovely week. All the best from me. Bye. Bye-bye.